Coach, when you see Clippers do, have a game like they had against the Warriors, that attendance, I know you were already up for that, but that when you see what they did in that game, that stood out to you.
Their defense, the way they take certain players out, their physical switching. Zubac is a guy who's been a versatile defender. The second game against Dallas, he guarded Doncic in the half court, like almost, a majority of the possessions. And so Ty has always been a guy that switched up, a coach that switched up defenses to help his team. And we faced that in the playoffs last year with zones and switching and small lineups. It was a series that helped us grow. And so last night, that's what I saw. And then their shot making. They have a number of guys that can knock it down from range. And they have guys who play off the dribble and can get their own shot. So just a good team.
When you look at the depth that you have in terms of the multiple lineups you can come up with, you and Kevin and then the rest of the guys sitting down, how much is it being tweaked now with Torrey being added and Aaron being added, still don't have Payne and Shemet back?
We don't sit down and do that.
Okay.
Say this combination for this combination. We just kind of, I hope that we just do the best we can in situations in the game to try to match what we think will help us win. I don't want to spend too much time overthinking because we've had some success with the lineups we've had. I think when you have new guys, you're trying to plug them in ways that can help your team as opposed to getting ahead of yourself, at least not for me. I probably should do that, but we just haven't done that yet. I think having Torrey before allows for you to already have an idea of where he can help you. Aaron's a guy that, we're just not quite sure what that's going to be once we get everybody back, but he's playing well and he can help our team do well. He'll be on the floor.
You mentioned being able to tighten the screws on some areas in practice yesterday. What are some of the areas for improvement that you see with this team moving forward as you kind of approach the All-Star?
Yeah, I just think you want to get better everywhere. The transition defense was something in the Orlando game that we all acknowledged it could be better, especially in the first quarter. Our first quarter defense, the last 5 games, hasn't been great. And in the third, we've been pretty good. And a lot of it has been some shot making, but some of it was transition defense. And then just execution. We've had so many guys in and out. A lot of our situational play calls, low clock situations, we haven't been as sharp as we could be. And we talked about that kind of stuff. But, you're just trying to keep getting better. Everybody's, in the same mode, I think. I'm watching games now and seeing all the different lineups from different teams because of trades. And it's hard to grow your team when you have so many guys in and out. And so you tend to shrink your package. But once you start getting guys back or have a day of practice, you can expand a little bit.
Monty, when you got here and look at Devin and just how much he wanted to win and the balance for him of carrying the offense while trying to do his part defensively, how much have you seen him kind of make that transformation into the parts of defense he needed to address and becoming the high-level defender that he is right now at this point in his career?
Well, I saw him as a guy who wasn't afraid of contact and his ability to get over screens when I watch film. We were just trying to fit that within the scheme of what we do. And then as we added players, it certainly has helped him. When you add defenders and Mikal grows and DA grows, it certainly helps a guy who has a motor and is not afraid. The thing that I've always been impressed with Book is he's just not afraid to guard his matchup. Not every guard will guard him, but he'll guard anybody. He doesn't back down. I think that allows for him to have confidence on the floor. But within our scheme, I think he's just, he knows exactly what we're trying to do after 3 years. He's a guy that completes my sentences at times in practice because he kind of knows what we're talking about. And I think that helps a ton. But a lot of it with Book is just his drive, his heart, his competitive nature.
To your point, when there are guys like Devin on certain teams, they do so much offensively, the teams look to hide them defensively, but it seems like one of the strengths of your defense is that you don't really hide anyone. And Devin in particular is someone who steps up, like you said. Can you speak to how much that helps the overall defense with the way Devin is included in everything?
I think all of our guys, because of how we switch, they're going to end up on the best player or players. And I think that helps your defense. I think with Book, he's just one of those guys who likes the challenge. And you have to be in great shape to do it, to put up the kinds of numbers he puts up every night and then go back on the other end and guard and rebound or have the chase down blocks that he'll have from time to time. It just speaks to, again, the drive he has to be a complete player. It probably sounds a bit nutty because of how he scores, but I've always felt like he has the capability and should be recognized in the all defensive conversations because of the fact that he will guard his position, and he does, guard sometimes half court, sometimes full court out of a timeout just to change up the rhythm of the game or show that I'm the best player and I can defend, not just score. We were talking about that a couple of weeks ago. I forget which game it was, but, I don't spend a lot of time promoting guys. I probably should. It's just never been my focus, but I probably should talk about him more in that regard because he and Mikal get after people a ton, and Jay is another guy that does that, and I think it's a good thing for our team.
Sorry, Coach. How cool was it for you thinking back on those Tokyo games when he was almost like playing the role of a pest, basically, when you speak to that full court and just the way he kind of adapts his game to what teams need?
Yeah, he got 2 charges in the championship game. That tells you right there he was locked in on that side of the floor. It kind of bothered me that he was down there with Gobert a couple of times getting hammered, but I don't think I'd call Pop and tell him how to coach. So I just kind of went to the fridge and got some water, came back and watched the game, prayed, make sure, hopefully he didn't get hurt, but he just wanted to win. I think that's what great players do. They figure out a way to impact the game and not inject themselves by just jacking up shots. He figured it out, and that's why all the coaches raved about it.
Is it harder to evaluate the defensive end? There's a lot of different metrics, but there's not like one catch-all. It's kind of has to come down to the eye test. So a guy like Mikal Williams, maybe not getting in that defensive player of the year love or something like that. Is it harder to try to evaluate that or compared to the offensive end?
Not for us, because we know what we're trying to do. I think all of the metrics are based on an NBA thing, but they can't be based on what we want. And so for us, it's about 1, winning, and 2, the schemes that we're trying to implement every game, and then seeing the results, based on what we know about the player and what we're trying to do. So for us, it's not that hard. I think from an NBA bigger picture, and when it comes down to awards and all that stuff, it can be a bit confusing just because it could be a totally different metric from team to team. And then you have what the NBA voters or whomever does all that stuff is looking at. So I think it hurts the player because the player could be trying to do everything we ask them to do, but it may not look right in the metric, which is why I've always been confused by a lot of the analytics. But I get it, what they're trying to do. They got to come up with something. But I think for us, we know what we're looking at and looking for, and we value what that guy brings to the table as he fits into that.
Monty, I know you only had Robert Covington as an assistant, Coach short time in Philadelphia, but with his ability to create, just get the same ball defensively. What do you recall from having an up close look at that in Philly, and like, what have you seen from him just since then?
Mm-hmm. I mean, Cov is, at the time, I think he was like a second team all defensive guy. He was the prototype 3-and-D guy, and a lot like Mikal, the versatility guarding a number of positions, but he also had the ability to go back and space the floor and knock shots down. He's a guy that can adapt. I mean, he's played with a number of great players, and he figures out a way to fit in. I mean, he was with Joel, and he was with Carl and Lillard. He has that ability. And if you look at where he came from, going the G League route, and you got to have some toughness to go that route and succeed and do what he's done. So I enjoyed my time with him. That trade was a tough one for me because it was a short time, but I got to know he and Dario well, and then they were gone, and that's just the business. But I valued what he brought to the table.
Seeing this back to back before the break, I'm just curious, is there anything you're looking for the guys before you go on the All-Star break?
You're just trying to win tonight's game. We want to have a good meeting. You can't get too far ahead. It's a natural tendency, but that's just not how we operate. We just want to play well tonight. That starts with our meeting, getting everybody prepped for the game, and we'll try to take it one step at a time. All right. Thank you. Yep.